Seriously, no way this scrawny kid is the one you were carrying all those years ago. Guess you can't lie about old jeans. Don't be surprised if his brain isn't exactly top tier either. Ha ha ha. The warm morning sun illuminated the manicured lawns of Northwood Preparatory Academy, the most prestigious high school in the state, on the day of the new student orientation. Amidst the gentle breeze that sent a few autumn leaves scattering, the vulgar laughter sounded jarringly out of place. The parents around us, busy taking commemorative photos, fell silent and turned in our direction, their brows furrowed. But this man, my ex-husband, who was looking me up and down with a sneer, was completely oblivious to the cold stares fixed on him. Arrogantly, he snorted with contempt as he glanced at my son standing beside me. But he couldn't possibly imagine that in just 3 seconds after seeing my son's face and something glinting on his chest, he would turn pale and tremble like a dry leaf. Let's rewind a bit. My name is Eliza. I am 56 years old and a typical single mother. My only son Liam, whom I raised with every fiber of my being, was accepted today into the best high school in the state, Northwood Preparatory Academy, known for producing the nation's best and brightest. Raising a child alone while working myself to the bone was no easy path. But seeing him in his new school uniform, it felt as though all my suffering had been worth it. Mom, thank you so much. I'll study hard here and become a world-class doctor, I promise, said Liam, his new blazer slightly too big on his frame. He smiled shyly, but his gaze was strong and full of conviction. Liam, congratulations. I'm so proud of you. Forcing back the tears that threatened to spill, I gently stroked my son's shoulder. Let's get a photo by the school's entrance plaque. We should hurry before it gets too crowded. We were just about to join the line near the large bronze plaque bearing the school's name. On the very first day of school, at that exact moment. Eliza, is that you? Behind me, I heard a voice I knew all too well. A slick, insidious voice that made my eardrums vibrate. When I turned, I saw a middle-aged man in a neatly tailored gray suit, and a young woman in a flashy designer dress clinging to his arm. William. The name slipped from my lips. Without a doubt, it was my ex-husband who, 15 years ago, had thrown me out like trash. He was a math teacher at a public school, always arrogant and looking down on those he considered weaker. His conceited face hadn't changed one bit in 15 years. That's right, Eliza. Wow, you've gotten so old. If I saw you on the street, I wouldn't even recognize you. Look at my darling here. He gestured to the woman beside him. Not like you. She's still young and fresh like a peach. William laughed crudely, wrapping his arm around the woman's waist. The girl named Skylar appraised me from head to toe, then sniffed. Oh, Will, your ex-wife really does look like a grandma. How pathetic. Hearing her name, the bitter memories of 15 years ago locked away in the depths of my heart churned like murky water. Skylar was William's student when he was still teaching. Yes, he had an affair with his 1-8-year-old student, and after dumping me while I was pregnant, he married her. Eliza, what are you doing at this little kid's orientation? William gestured with his chin toward Liam, who stood as if hiding behind me. Your son couldn't possibly get into an elite school like this. Maybe you just came over from the public housing next door to have a look. I pressed my lips together tightly. I wanted to retort with a volley of words, but I didn't want to cause a scene on such an important day for Liam. He probably took my silence as a weakness, an inability to argue. William's behavior became even more insolent. Besides, a 4-1-year-old grandma giving birth at that age couldn't possibly have a normal kid. That's a well-known fact. Ha ha ha, I was so lucky to divorce you back then. My superior genes were inherited by the son Skylar gave me. The parents around us began to whisper angrily at William's outrageous insults, but he, ignoring the glares, continued to laugh with satisfaction. However, his sense of superiority lasted only a few seconds. Liam, who had been hiding behind me, slowly stepped forward to stand before William. When William saw Liam's face from the front, his cruel sneer vanished. The blood seemed to drain from his face, leaving it ashen. His mouth opened and closed without a sound, while his wide eyes were fixated on a pin on the breast pocket of Liam's blazer. No. It can't be. That face. And that pin. It happened 15 years ago when I was 41 and William was 43. We had been married for 10 years. William, a public school math teacher, appeared in public to be a passionate and dedicated educator. But once the front door was closed, he transformed into a true tyrant. I'm the one who earns the money. I'm the one who feeds you. You will listen to me and do the housework quietly without complaining. That was his favorite line. I was forced to live in constant fear, trying to read his moods to avoid his anger. In that bleak existence, a miracle happened. After years of trying without success, at the age of 41, I became pregnant. Congratulations, you're pregnant. When the doctor said those words, I can still clearly remember the thrill of joy and relief that washed over me. Maybe now our cold relationship would improve a little. When William had his own child, his own flesh and blood, surely he would soften and show some fatherly affection. With these small hopes, I returned home and with trembling hands showed him the ultrasound photo. Honey, listen, I'm pregnant. It's our child. But in response, I heard cruel words that shattered my simple hopes. What pregnant William looked at the photo with disgust and tossed it on the table. Do you know how old you are? 41. A grandma giving birth at that age. The kid won't be normal. If he's stupid or has some defect, it'll be a stain on my career. Go get an abortion now. I'd be humiliated. How could you? This is our child. This is a life. How can you say something so cruel? I desperately tried to appeal to his conscience, but William just looked me up and down with a cold stare as if I were a piece of trash. I am a man of quality. I want to pass on my superior genes to a younger, more worthy woman. Your old genes are just an obstacle in my perfect life. I was too shocked to speak. My throat was dry and I froze on the spot, unable to move. I couldn't believe I was hearing him reject his own child's life straight from his mouth. From that day on, clutching my growing belly, I spent my nights sobbing silently into my pillow. William, using the excuse that the sight of a pregnant woman made him sick, came home less and less. And when I was 8 months pregnant, he suddenly came home one day with a young woman I didn't recognize. William, who is this? This is my student, Skylar. She's 18 this year. Beside William stood a girl with bright blonde hair and heavy makeup, a typical modern high schooler. Her legs, visible beneath her short skirt, seemed brazen and defiant. Seeing me swollen and tired from pregnancy, she giggled cynically. Oh, so this is your wife. She looks more like your mother. That's hilarious. Now, Skylar, don't be so blunt. Have some pity on the old lady. William pretended to scold her, wrapping his arm around Skylar's waist as they laughed together. What is all this about? While I was still confused, unable to comprehend what was happening, William delivered the fatal line. Eliza, I'm divorcing you. I've decided to marry Skylar. What Skylar is carrying my child. Not a child from a grandma like you, but from the young and fresh Skylar. This is the best way to pass on my superior genes. My head spun. My husband was cheating on me with his 8-year-old student. More than that, he'd gotten her pregnant. And this man stood before his pregnant wife, calmly uttering such words. He was a devil in human form. No way. If the school finds out a teacher slept with a student, you won't get away with it. You'll be fired in disgrace, I shouted desperately, my legs trembling. William just snorted arrogantly. No one will know. Starting next month, I'm transferring to a prestigious private academy. I was already planning to leave this dump of a school. Nobody's going to believe the ramblings of a woman who got dumped. Impossible. So get out of this house. Today, this is going to be our love nest now. Oh, and don't expect a single cent in alimony. Consider it payment for the years of my life I wasted on you. I wasn't even given time to pack. With my large belly and the clothes on my back, I was thrown out onto the street at night. I had only a few $100s in my wallet. I had no relatives to call and nowhere to go. I could only shiver from the cold on a park bench. How was I going to live? What would happen to this child? At the height of my despair, I cried, howling in grief. The cold night wind and the laughter of William and Skylar, even after 15 years, remain etched in my soul like a curse. And now, at the new student orientation at Northwood Prep, under the falling leaves, I met William for the first time in 15 years. Just like that night, he was insulting and laughing at me. But the situation was very different now. No, it can't be. That face, and that pin. When William saw the face and the pin on the chest of Liam, who emerged from behind me, he trembled all over and took a few steps back. I had waited for this moment for 15 years, fighting through every hardship. What's wrong, mister? William. Why do you look so frightened? Is there something wrong with my son? As I deliberately asked in a calm voice. Skylar, standing next to William and unable to read the situation, exclaimed loudly, Will, honey? Why are you so scared of this? Old lady's kid. Let's go to the auditorium. We have to see our genius son's moment of glory. Skylar irritably tried to pull William's arm. At that moment, Liam looked at William with ice-cold eyes and slowly said, Good morning. So you're the despicable teacher who threw my mother out like trash. Those quiet, heavy words were the trigger. After this, the perfect life William and Skylar had imagined would shatter into a million pieces. Good morning. So you're the despicable teacher who threw my mother out like trash. Under the morning breeze, Liam's low, cold voice mercilessly struck William's eardrums. Despicable teacher. William's face, which had been fearful, instantly turned crimson with rage. For a man who had enjoyed his position as a teacher for years, accustomed to looking down on those weaker than him, these words from the son of the ex-wife he despised were a total destruction of his ego. However, William, trembling with anger, couldn't tear his eyes away from the glittering gold pin on Liam's chest. Skylar, standing beside him, shrieked and lunged at Liam, Hey you, how dare you talk to my Will like that? My Will is a super elite teacher. He's entrusted with leading the honors program at a famous private academy. You, the son of some washed-up old hag, have no right to talk to him like that, Skylar spat arrogantly. Then after glancing at the pin on Liam's chest, she snorted. And what's with that cheap gold-plated trinket? My son doesn't have one of those. You probably bought a fake on eBay to show off. If the mother's trash, the son is too. Quiet, Skylar, William shouted as if in pain, trying to stop her. His face was contorted as if he were about to cry. Skylar might not know, but William, being in the world of education, understood perfectly what that gold pin meant. At Northwood Preparatory Academy, only one person in the entire grade was allowed to wear such a pin on their chest. The person who achieved the absolute best results among thousands of talented applicants. The symbol of an absolute genius, an Olympiad winner accepted without needing to take the entrance exam. Impossible. My son Ryan, who inherited my and Skylar's superior genes, only barely got in off the waitlist. Why, William's head was a chaotic mess of confusion and wild envy. A 4-1-year-old woman, and furthermore the son of a woman he had scorned and abandoned, a child who grew up in poverty, couldn't possibly be the top student at the most prestigious high school in the state. This shouldn't be happening. You've got to be kidding me, William yelled through gritted teeth, trying to gather his courage. Eliza, how low can you get? Are you so desperate that you'd make a fake pin to show off? You people are disgusting. A poor kid could never be the valedictorian of Northwood. You probably stole that blazer or bought it secondhand. The parents around us started whispering again. He's saying the pin is fake. Wow. Maybe we should call security. The cold stares of the people around us pierced me and Liam. Even so, I didn't say a word. I just silently looked at the profile of my son standing beside me. It wasn't because I had nothing to say. I knew better than anyone the strength of Liam, who for 15 years had worked harder than anyone and grown into the most honest and upright person I knew. As his mother, I didn't need to interfere. William interpreted my silence as an admission of his truth and sneered cruelly again. See, can't even say anything. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. A stupid kid who inherited his grandma's rotten genes. Get out of here! This place is for the true elite, for people like our son. William shouted triumphantly and reached out to shove Liam's shoulder. Just then, Dad, Mom, wait, don't leave without me. Pushing through the crowd, a boy ran towards us. It was Ryan, William, and Skylar's son in a new Northwood prep blazer. A short boy with glasses. Ah, Ryan, we're over here. Your dad and I just ran into some weird poor people, Skylar waved happily. William also beamed as if to say, the main hero has arrived to welcome his son. However, Ryan, running over, saw Liam standing in front of him before he even saw his parents. Ryan froze like a statue. From his hand, the orientation brochure fell to the ground with a rustle. Ryan, what's wrong? William asked, puzzled. But Ryan didn't seem to hear him at all. He looked as if he'd seen a ghost, his eyes wide as he pointed a trembling finger at Liam. No way! You! Why is the monster from the National Academic Decathlon here? At the extraordinary words that came from Ryan's mouth, William and Skylar froze on the spot. What did our son just say? Monster from the National Academic Decathlon. What's that? William repeated his son's words in confusion, not understanding. Skylar, mouth agape, looked back and forth between Ryan and Liam. Ryan's healthy complexion had turned deathly pale, and his fingertips were trembling slightly. It was no wonder. At the famous prep center he attended, no matter how many practice tests he took, no matter how many nights he spent studying, there was one insurmountable wall. A legendary figure who repeatedly scored a perfect 100 on every subject, causing despair among all prospective students across the country. And that figure was Liam, standing right in front of him. Dad, this guy, he's not at our prep center. At the National Decathlon, he always. Hey, Ryan, calm down. William irritably cut off his son's desperate attempt to convey the truth. What's with you? Are you so nervous you've lost your mind? What's this monster nonsense? This is my useless ex-wife I dumped 15 years ago and her son. William snorted contemptuously, pointing at Liam. Look at his ragged appearance. A kid raised in a dump like that couldn't possibly be smarter than you. He must be jealous of your talent and trying to intimidate you. Hearing William's words, Skylar's face lit up and she wrapped her arm around Ryan's shoulder. That's right, Ryan. Don't pay any attention to this filthy family. The National Decathlon they're talking about must be some kind of test for the dumbest students. Ryan, who inherited Will's perfect genes, could never lose to this old lady's kid. Skylar's shrill voice echoed down the quiet path. The parents around us looked on with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. Feeling like the center of attention, William raised his voice even higher. Eliza, what kind of dirty trick did you teach your son to fool Ryan? You think you can scare my son with a fake pin? It won't work. I held back my overflowing anger and silently stared into William's eyes. If I responded with emotion now, it would be exactly what he wanted. I couldn't ruin Liam's important day. William interpreted my silence to his own advantage. See, Skylar Ryan. My guess was spot on and they can't even say a word. William, holding his stomach, burst into laughter. Besides, even if poor people like you manage to get into this prestigious school, you won't last. You won't be able to pay the tuition and you'll be kicked out soon enough. We, the chosen elite, live in a different world. Exactly. We might catch your poverty. Get out of here. Just looking at you makes me sick, Skylar said, fanning herself dramatically with her hand. Only Ryan, hearing his parents' mocking words, shook his head with a pale face and whispered, "No, no, stop it." But William and Skylar didn't hear him. William, with a triumphant expression, turned to the parents around him with a loud speech. "Ladies and gentlemen, listen up. This woman has forced her son to wear a fake pin and is trying to tarnish the honor of our school. She is a malicious fraud. As an elite educator, I will immediately report these suspicious individuals to the school administration, and they will be thrown out." From the crowd, voices of support arose. "Oh my God, it's fake. They should be kicked out immediately." Liam and I were completely isolated in a hopeless situation. William, satisfied, took out his phone and was about to tap the screen. But just as he was about to make the call, "Who here is a suspicious person?" Suddenly behind us, a man's authoritative voice rang out. Hearing the voice, the parents around us gasped and stepped back. "It can't be. Why is he here?" William also looked up from his phone screen and saw the owner of the voice, his arrogant posture instantly vanishing. He froze in place like a frog before a snake. His eyes widened. "Mr. Chairman." The absolute authority of this school had appeared known in educational circles as a patriarch. "The chairman of the Board of Trustees for Northwood Preparatory Academy. Which side would the chairman take? And would William's pathetic pride be trampled to dust? Who here is a suspicious person?" The owner of the weighty voice was an elderly man with neatly combed gray hair, exuding an aura of dignity and power. He was Mr. Harrington, the chairman of the board for Northwood Preparatory Academy. William's behavior, which moments before had been loud and condescending towards me and Liam, changed in an instant. "Oh, Mr. Chairman Harrington, it is an honor to meet you in person. I'm William, head of the honors program at Crestview Academy." William bowed deeply like a sycophant in a royal court. Seeing such a rapid change in attitude made me feel nauseous. Chairman Harrington, after a brief glance at the fawning William, swept his sharp, eagle-like gaze over the crowd surrounding us. "It's rather lively here before the ceremony has even begun. What exactly is going on?" As if waiting for his cue, William immediately spoke up. "Mr. Chairman, I'm ashamed to even say it, but this shabby-looking woman and her son are suspicious individuals who have trespassed onto school grounds." William pointed his finger at me and continued to dramatize the situation with exaggerated gestures. "Furthermore, this boy is wearing a fake valedictorian pin on his chest, trying to desecrate the sanctity of our ceremony. As an elite educator, I find this behavior completely unacceptable." Skylar, clinging to William's arm, chimed in with a sweet voice. "That's right, Mr. Chairman. These people have been harassing an elite family like ours from the very beginning. This tarnishes the good name of a prestigious school like Northwood." Hearing William and Skylar's words, the parents around us began whispering again, but now with a clear tone of judgment towards us. "Wow, lying right in front of the chairman. So it was all fake. What a shameless family. Mr. Chairman, call security and have them removed." From all directions, cold, piercing words flew. The atmosphere was set, as if we were the criminals. I struggled to remain standing. What should I do? At this rate, Liam would really be thrown out as a trespasser. I had to respond. I had to clear up this misunderstanding. But due to the immense pressure from my surroundings and my own fear, my throat was dry, and I couldn't utter a single word. William, seeing me unable to retort, and just standing silently, smirked maliciously, and deliberately whispered in my ear, so no one else could hear. "Well, it's over for you, old woman. This is what happens when trash like you tries to breathe the same air as us, the elite. Get on your knees and beg for forgiveness, crying. Maybe I'll have mercy and not hand you over to the police." Haha. Hearing those humiliating words, I bit my lip until it hurt. I could taste blood in my mouth. How painful. Not just 15 years ago, but even now this man was trampling all over me. "A fake pin, you say," Chairman Harrington said in a low, menacing voice. His face was deadly serious. He looked as if he was suppressing a simmering rage. The chairman with slow, heavy steps approached Liam. "Mr. Chairman, I've already called security. They'll be here any moment to remove this trash," William shouted triumphantly. And I saw from a distance 2 burly security guards running towards us. "No, don't touch him." I instinctively spread my arms to protect Liam. Let me suffer any humiliation, but I had to protect Liam's future at all costs. Haha. What a pathetic sight, Eliza. "Hey, security, hurry up and drag this old woman and her son out of here." William's loud laughter echoed under the trees. A large hand reached out to grip my shoulder roughly. At that critical moment, stop. The chairman's sharp command cut through the air like the crack of a whip. The security guard's movements froze as if time had stopped. William opened his mouth, confused. "Mr. Chairman, why did you stop them? They're trespassers." The chairman completely ignored William's words and stared intently at Liam's face, who stood protected by me. And on the chairman's previously serious face, an expression of astonishment slowly appeared. "You. It can't be." The chairman's voice trembled. This dignified, authoritative figure stood before an ordinary boy, his eyes wide as if he were witnessing a miracle. Seeing the chairman's strange behavior, the color drained from William's face. The chairman reached out a trembling hand and carefully touched the glittering gold pin on Liam's chest, then uttered words that no one present could believe. "Are you that prodigy? Liam Whitaker?" The chairman's trembling voice echoed along the path, hushed in anticipation. "Prodigy William," repeated bewildered. Skylar, too, with wide eyes, looked back and forth between the chairman and Liam. The chairman, as if touching a precious treasure, carefully placed a hand on Liam's shoulder. His eyes even seemed to glisten. "Ah, yes, there's no mistake. Those determined eyes, the same ones I saw in the photo in his personal file. You are Liam Whitaker, the student who was admitted to our school with the highest score in its history. I've been wanting to meet you in person." At those words, a loud murmur of astonishment spread through the crowd of parents. It was no surprise. The Northwood Prep entrance exam was considered the most difficult in the state, and to achieve the highest score in history meant being an extraordinary genius. "Mr. Chairman, there must be some mistake," William hurriedly interrupted, his face flushed. "They're frauds. That woman is the trash I threw out 15 years ago. Her son couldn't possibly be the top student at Northwood. He must be impersonating the real Liam Whitaker." William was desperate. His fragile ego couldn't accept that the person he had been insulting was actually on a level he could never reach. However, the chairman gave William a cold look and shook his head. "There is no mistake. From the day I saw his entrance exam results, I reread his answer sheets multiple times. Not a single error in any subject. A perfect score. And not only that, his essay answers showed a logic so brilliant that even university professors would be amazed. To write a work of that caliber, in the entire country, he is the only one. A perfect score in every subject." William's knees went weak, and Skylar, standing next to him, had to prop him up. "And this gold pin is not just a decoration." The chairman pointed to the glittering pin on Liam's chest. "On the back of this pin are engraved the names and serial numbers of every valedictorian in the school's history. Of course, the one he has is genuine with this year's new engraving. I myself presented it to him when he came to the school last week to give a speech at the new student introduction event." The decisive testimony from the chairman completely changed the atmosphere. The parents, who had been looking at us with cold, disdainful glares, now looked at Liam with awe and admiration. And those gazes quickly shifted to William and Skylar. My God, this man called the school's top student a fraud. Talking about poor people. The most embarrassing ones here are this couple. To say such vile things to his son's classmate, and the valedictorian no less. How shameful for an educator. The whispers of judgment now haunted William and his wife. William, sweating profusely, opened and closed his mouth without a sound, at a loss for words. Skylar, too, had forgotten her earlier arrogance, hiding behind William and trembling. "So, Mr. William, if I'm not mistaken," the chairman looked at William with an ice-cold voice. "You have baselessly accused our school's pride, our top student, and even called security to have him removed. Can I consider this a grave insult to Northwood Preparatory Academy?" "No, that's not what I meant. It was just a misunderstanding," William stammered. But then Liam, who had been silent all this time, slowly spoke. A misunderstanding. Liam's calm, cold voice was like an arrow piercing William's heart. Liam looked straight into William's frightened face and continued in a flat tone. "You just insulted my mother. You said that from a 4-1-year-old grandma giving birth at that age, only stupid children with rotten genes would be born. And your own son, you called him the heir to your perfect genes. Is that right?" William looked away, backing down. Liam glanced at William's son, Ryan. Ryan stood with a pale face, trembling all over. "Ryan, K. At the National Academic Decathlon at the prep center we both attended, I was in the same group as him. Did his score ever once surpass mine?" Ryan flinched and, with a face on the verge of tears, shook his head. "No. Liam was always ranked first in the nation, while no matter how hard I tried, I could never break 80. Ryan, what are you saying?" William, his face contorted, shouted at his son, but his voice had no power. Liam smiled coldly. "This is the reality, Mr. William. The mother you insulted as a single parent raised me and supported me with her boundless love. It is thanks to her genes and her love that I am standing here. So what is the value of what you call your superior genes? I truly don't understand. The curse that had shackled me for 15 years was shattered to pieces by Liam's logical argument. I felt something warm rise from the depths of my heart. William couldn't argue, only able to tremble in place. But Liam's counterattack wasn't over. And one more thing, Mr. William. Liam narrowed his eyes, which became as sharp as a hunting dog, closing in on its prey. You just introduced yourself as the head of the honors program at Crestview Academy, correct? Yes, that's right. What of it? William clung to the last remnants of his pride, puffing out his chest. Liam took his phone from his pocket, opened something on the screen, and aimed it at William. Head of honors at Crestview Academy. So you're that Mr. William. Well, this is getting more and more interesting. When William saw what was on Liam's phone screen, his eyes bulged and a sound like a groan escaped his throat. What was Liam showing him? No, impossible. Where did you get this? William pointed at Liam's phone, trembling as if he'd seen a ghost. His face had completely lost its color and cold sweat poured down his forehead. Liam, with a calm expression, turned his phone so the parents and the chairman could see. This is an anonymous Discord server created by the students of Crestview Academy, where you currently work. It's become quite popular on social media lately, but it seems you weren't aware. The Teacher Expose channel. The chairman frowned and looked at Liam's phone. There, a series of shocking sentences were displayed. Honors Program Head Mr. William pulls college recommendation letters for students who don't obey him. He calls female students he likes into his office after class and tells dirty jokes. It's disgusting. He openly discriminates against students based on their parents' jobs and income, casually saying things like, "The poor have no place here." What is this? If this is true, it is utterly despicable behavior for an educator. The chairman's voice trembled with rage. No, it's all lies. William waved his hands, shouting desperately. It's just losers who hate me writing lies out of spite. At Crestview, I'm one of the best. A pathetic excuse, Mr. William. Liam's ice-cold voice cut through William's words. On this server, there are attached audio recordings of you threatening certain students, and screenshots of inappropriate messages. If you claim this is all slander, then you wouldn't mind if the police and the Board of Education conducted an investigation, right? That. William stammered, his lips trembling as he fell silent. He himself knew better than anyone that everything written there was the undeniable truth. The gazes of the parents around him turned from disdain to utter contempt. How awful. What does he think students are? And a person like this is a teacher. The world is ending. Thank God my child didn't go to that school. The whispers of judgment were like countless needles stabbing William. It was a fitting retribution for a man who, to satisfy his own arrogance, had belittled and trampled on the weak. I felt the black filth that had accumulated in my soul for 15 years slowly being cleansed. But Liam's pursuit was not over. And one more thing. On this expose server, there's a very interesting post. Liam scrolled the screen and read one of the posts aloud. Mr. William's current wife is rumored to be his former student. There's a rumor he cheated on his previous wife with her while she was pregnant and stole him away. So it's true. As those words were spoken this time, it was Skylar standing beside him who let out a short shriek. Hey, why is there stuff about me written there too? Who wrote this? Skylar panicked and started hitting William's arm. We'll do something. If the other moms find out, I won't be able to leave the house. Shut up, this isn't the time for that. William irritably pushed Skylar away. Damn it, how did it come to this? I'm elite. I'm not someone who can be brought down by a poor family. William, holding his head, started muttering, half crazed. The sight of the couple who had just been posturing as an elite family now bickering was truly pathetic. Ryan, watching them with a stunned expression, finally couldn't take it, and covered his face with his hands, crying. That's enough, the chairman said calmly, but with absolute authority. Mr. William, you have insulted a student and parent of our school. Furthermore, serious suspicions have arisen at your place of work. I will not allow you to continue to defile the sanctity of our ceremony. The chairman nodded to the security guard standing behind him, and the two burly men firmly gripped William and Skylar's arms. The same guards who had tried to remove me and Liam were now acting to remove William and his wife. Let go, don't touch me. William struggled desperately, but his strength was no match. Fine, I've had enough of this ceremony for poor people. William grabbed his crying son and, turning to flee, tried to escape. He realized that by staying here, he would only continue to humiliate himself. His back, as he ran away with his tail between his legs, looked utterly pathetic and ridiculous. Finally, it's all over. I was about to let out a sigh of relief, but just then. Hey, Mr. William, what do you mean you're not attending the ceremony? Where William and his family were trying to escape from behind a row of trees, someone slowly approached us. When William saw this person who had just emerged from a high-end black sedan, his feet seemed to be glued to the ground. Dr. Coleman. From William's mouth came a hoarse, desperate groan. The headmaster of Crestview Academy, where William currently worked, had appeared. Why would the headmaster of a completely different school show up at Northwood Prep's ceremony, and behind this seemingly coincidental appearance lay an even more terrifying truth. Dr. Coleman, why are you here? The headmaster of Crestview Academy where William worked, Dr. Coleman was the absolute authority there. His graying hair was neatly combed, he wore a well-fitting three-piece suit, and his appearance commanded undeniable respect. William, who had been trying to flee, stopped, and with a stiff smile began to bow. Good morning. I was actually attending my son's orientation, but I suddenly started feeling unwell. William, sweating, desperately tried to come up with an excuse. He hoped the rumors of his scandal on social media hadn't reached the headmaster's ears. From his anxious eyes, it was clear he was lying. However, Dr. Coleman completely ignored William's words. Without even glancing at him, he walked past him and approached the chairman of Northwood. Mr. Harrington. Mr. Harrington, my apologies for the delay. Before giving my guest welcoming remarks, I had to clean up a little mess from one of my staff. Oh, not at all, Dr. Coleman. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. The two leaders shook hands firmly like old friends. The headmaster of Crestview Academy and the chairman of Northwood knew each other. While I stared at them in surprise, Dr. Coleman turned and with an ice-cold gaze pierced William. William, you said you were feeling unwell, right? Yes, sir. My head is splitting. I see. Perhaps it's because you were up all night watching your dirty deeds spread across social media and broke into a cold sweat. Yes, a strangled groan like the sound of a frog escaped William's throat. No, headmaster, it's a misunderstanding. It's vicious slander from some loser students who hate me. Silence, doctor. Coleman's angry shout made the air tremble. Both Skylar and Ryan flinched and stepped back. Slander, you say? Don't be ridiculous. This morning, my private email received an anonymous complaint. Inside were bank statements from the account where you received bribes from parents, audio recordings of you harassing female students, and even your entire biography, including how 15 years ago, you had an affair with your student, who is now your wife, and unjustly threw out your pregnant wife. All of it supported by irrefutable evidence. This time, William's face turned completely white like a corpse. I held my breath in shock. Not only his current transgressions but also his actions against me 15 years ago had been collected as perfect evidence. Who could have done this? I'm being framed. Who? Who is trying to smear my name and falsify this data? William shouted in a panic. But Dr. Coleman replied with an ice-cold voice. There is no falsification. I had a friend in the cybercrime unit look at it. Neither the audio recordings nor the bank statements were altered, which means it is all the truth. Ah. William finally fell to his knees. Skylar, standing next to him, was also hysterical. No. Does this mean Will is going to be fired? What about our luxurious life? William, as of today, you are fired in disgrace. Given all your previous crimes, a police investigation will begin shortly. Prepare yourself. It was a merciless but just death sentence from Dr. Coleman. The man who, 15 years ago, had pushed me into hell and trampled on the weak, now lost everything. Seeing the scene, I didn't say a word. I just silently watched the pathetic end of his life. By the way, Doctor, Coleman changed his tone and looked at Liam, who was standing beside me. That perfect complaint file. I can't believe you, a high school student, compiled it all by yourself, hacked into my secure email and sent it to me. Mr. Harrington told me this year's top student was a real monster, but I didn't expect his information-gathering skills to be this terrifying. What? William lifted his contorted face. I, too, looked at my son in disbelief. Liam, you did all this. Liam, with a gentle smile in response to my question, turned back to William, who was sprawled on the ground with a cold gaze. Yes. I was afraid this person might try to contact you again someday. To prepare for that possibility, I've been investigating his past for several years. It's shocking how much dirt is stuck to him. You damn kid from that old hag. You've ruined my perfect life. William, his eyes bloodshot, leaped up and blindly charged at Liam. The security guards immediately grabbed William and pinned him to the ground. Liam, without taking a step back, threw words of even greater despair at William's struggling face on the ground. Your life was ruined by your own rotten nature. Besides, my investigation doesn't end here, Mr. William. You still believe that Ryan, born from Skylar, is your son who inherited your superior genes, don't you? William's movements froze, and from Skylar's face behind him, not just panic, but clear fear and desperation were visible. Liam's next words would push William and Skylar into the true depths of hell. Ryan is not my son, William, pinned to the ground, mumbled as if he didn't understand the meaning of Liam's words. But then with a jolt, he lifted his head and, with a flushed face, screamed, Don't be ridiculous. Ryan is without a doubt my and Skylar's son. He inherited my superior genes. What are you saying, you poor brat? Desperately, William's sputtering saliva denied it with all his might. For him, the fact that Ryan was his talented son was the last and absolute pillar that justified his leaving me for a younger woman. But in contrast to William's rage, Skylar's behavior behind him was clearly strange. "No. What are you saying, you little punk?" "Will honey don't ever believe this trash is nonsense," Skylar shrieked, and trembling hid behind William. Her former bravado was completely gone, and her face was ashen as if a bomb's trigger that should never have been touched had been pressed. Liam, ignoring William's screams and without a trace of fear, just looked at them with a cold, contemptuous gaze. "Mr. William, you constantly talk about superior genes, but objectively, where is the superiority in Ryan's achievements? The fact that he got into Northwood is enough to consider him talented, but he got in last off the waitlist. Furthermore, at the prep center, his performance was always poor. He himself just said that no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't break an 80. Hearing Liam's calm statement, Ryan flinched and hung his head. That's just because Ryan hasn't tried his hardest yet. Soon my genes will awaken." William scrambled for a pathetic excuse, but Liam mercilessly continued. "It's not just about academics, but also appearance. You, Mr. William, are thin with a nervous disposition, while Ryan is stocky and a bit heavyset. His eyes also look nothing like yours. You've lived together for 15 years and never found that odd," William stammered. It was a direct hit. In truth, William himself, watching Ryan grow up, had felt somewhere in the back of his mind that Ryan didn't resemble him, but to admit that would be to deny his perfect life. So, he had unconsciously turned away from that thought. "Stop it, don't say anything else," Skylar, covering her ears with her hands, screamed hysterically. "Ryan is Will's son. He was born when Will and I were dating 15 years ago. Please, Will, believe me." Skylar, her eyes filled with tears, tried to cling to William, but William roughly pushed her away. A clear suspicion appeared on his face. "Skylar, why are you so nervous? If you have nothing to hide, you should be calm. Why do you look so terrified?" Hearing William's sharp question, Skylar held her breath and grew even paler. Liam, coldly observing the pathetic couple's argument, took his phone from his pocket again. "Mrs. Skylar, perhaps I should explain the past you are so desperately trying to hide." "No, don't." Skylar finally fell to the ground and, covering her face with her hands, sobbed. 15 years ago, Mrs. Skylar, then 18 years old, was in a relationship with her homeroom teacher, Mr. William. Mr. William seemed very happy to have a fresh young student. But you, Mrs. Skylar, were also dating another man at the same time. What, William, his eyes wide, stared at Skylar. "Your other boyfriend was your classmate, the leader of a delinquent gang, a stocky blonde who was always riding around on a motorcycle. You, Mrs. Skylar, went to hotels with Mr. William, but at the same time you were often at that classmate's house." "Lies. It's all lies, Skylar. When you were with me, you were also seeing that thug," Travis William roared. Skylar desperately shook her head but could no longer utter a word. "When it was discovered you were pregnant, you, Mrs. Skylar, didn't know whose child it was. But you decided it would be more advantageous for your life to say it was the child of teacher William, who had a stable income and was infatuated with you, rather than a penniless, low-status delinquent classmate. Am I wrong?" From the crowd of parents came whispers of disgust. "Horrible. That's disgusting." Both Dr. Coleman and Chairman Harrington watched this sordid drama with revulsion. "No, he's my son. He has to be my son." William, crazed with the fear that his entire life was a sham, screamed. "Proof. Show me the proof. I won't let my life be destroyed by your insane fantasies." "Proof," Liam, as if waiting for that, smiled coldly, and from his backpack he pulled out a tightly sealed brown envelope. "Of course it's ready. Here is the final answer to the question of the perfect life you, Mr. William, have believed in for 15 years. Seeing the envelope, Skylar let out a desperate shriek and fainted. What cruel truth would the DNA test presented by Liam reveal? In Liam's hand was a tightly sealed brown envelope. William's gaze was fixed on it, as restless as that of a criminal awaiting a death sentence. "What is that?" A dry, hoarse sound escaped William's throat. "The results of a DNA test ordered from a private lab," Liam answered in a flat tone. "Ryan and I went to the same prep center, so getting an empty plastic bottle he threw away in the study hall. Trash was easy. And your biological material, Mr. William, I took from the paper coffee cup you throw out every morning near Crestview Academy. When did you have time to do all this? I've told you. Just in case. If you ever tried to contact my mother again, I've been preparing for several years." Liam tore open the envelope and pulled out a thick report from within. Then he slowly brought the paper close to William's face. "And now, Mr. William, confirm with your own eyes the truth about your superior genes." William, as if touching a hot iron, took the report with trembling hands. The parents, the chairman, and I all held our breath watching his reaction. William's gaze scanned down the lines of the document, and when he reached the most crucial point, the test result. "Ah." William's eyes bulged and a hissing sound came from his mouth. The report slipped helplessly from his hands and, caught by the morning breeze, fell to the ground. There, printed clearly and mercilessly, probability of paternity of the alleged father William for the child Ryan is 0%. 0%. Lies. This can't be happening. William stared in disbelief at the report on the ground, then at Skylar. Ryan isn't my son. My elite son, who inherited my superior genes, isn't my son. Don't deny it. Suddenly, Skylar, who had fainted, leaped to her feet with a shrill scream. She apparently realized that pretending was no longer possible. Her fearful expression was gone, replaced by the fury of a vengeful goddess as she stared at William. Yes, it's all just like the report says. Ryan isn't your son. Ryan's real father is that delinquent Travis I used to date. Skylar, you've been deceiving me all this time. William's face turned crimson with rage and despair. It's your own fault for being fooled, Skylar spat the words out with a force, as if she were spitting in William's face. Besides, did you really think an 8-year-old girl would want to have a kid with a creepy old geezer who's more than 20 years older than her? I just needed your stable status as a teacher and your money. You pathetic fool who thought he was still hot stuff because a young girl liked him. Those contemptuous words completely shattered the last remnants of William's pride. The man who considered himself a chosen elite, who had insulted me as a useless old woman and cast me aside, was nothing more than an ATM for an 8-year-old girl. 8-year-old girl. For 15 years, he had believed he was raising another man's child and had been nothing but a clown. I'll never forgive you. For you, I threw Eliza out. I killed my own child who should have been born. William, his eyes bloodshot, tried to lunge at Skylar, but the security guards held him firmly, and he could only scrape his face against the ground. Like I care. You're the one who dumped that old hag. It's all your fault, Skylar. Not to be outdone rained curses down on him. I silently watched this disgusting fight. I had no desire to respond or sympathize. These two people who 15 years ago had thrown me out like trash while laughing were now publicly tearing each other apart, pathetically destroying themselves. I just quietly recorded this scene in my memory. Then, whose son am I? Ryan, covering his face with his hands, cried, howling in grief. The reality was too cruel for a 15-year-old boy to learn that he was not the son of an elite but the child of a greedy woman and a delinquent. So the mask of Mr. Stone, William's perfect life, has finally come off, Liam said with an ice-cold gaze, looking down at William sprawled on the ground. Your superior genes turned out to be fiction. Your current position is based on crime. Your wife betrayed you, and your beloved son turned out to be another man's child. William, with a vacant stare, mumbled something, his whole body trembling. It seemed his spirit was completely broken. However, Liam delivered one final blow. But, Mr. William, you still have something left, don't you? What? William lifted his empty eyes towards Liam. Your legal responsibility, which you've avoided for 15 years, to my mother. Liam said that and looked towards the path. Apologies for the wait. Please come this way. Responding to Liam's signal from the path, a man in a formal black suit with a sharp gaze and an attaché case in his hand approached us. On his lapel gleamed a pin from a prestigious law firm. What was the purpose of this lawyer? Summoned by Liam. Apologies for keeping you waiting. I am Mr. Wallace, and I represent the interests of Mrs. Eliza Whitaker. The man in the black suit introduced himself with an ice-cold voice and extended his business card to William, who was collapsed on the ground. The bold letters Wallace and Associates Managing Partner stabbed at William's eyes. A lawyer, William made a sound like a snake hissing at a frog. Mr. Wallace took a thick file from his attaché case and began to flip through the pages. Mr. William, 15 years ago you engaged in an illicit relationship with your student Skylar, then 18 years old, and unilaterally evicted your pregnant wife Eliza from your home. This constitutes willful family abandonment and a serious violation of the law. Don't be ridiculous, William, his face flushed, roared. That was 15 years ago. The statute of limitations has long since passed. Don't think you can extort money from me now for something that old. It won't work, William shouted triumphantly. The lawyer's appearance had scared him, but he thought he could get away with it by relying on his shallow legal knowledge. However, Mr. Wallace, without changing his expression, gave William a cynical smile. Statute of limitations. Unfortunately for you, Mr. William, to ensure you could not escape responsibility, Liam took all the necessary steps several years ago. What? William's face turned pale again. Liam came to my office when he was still in middle school, and he has quietly but perfectly executed all the legal procedures to toll and suspend the statute of limitations, such as sending certified letters and filing preliminary motions with the court. A middle schooler hiring a lawyer and executing legal procedures. William stared in disbelief at Liam standing beside him. Liam, with the same calm expression, looked back at William. I told you, Mr. William. Just in case you ever tried to contact my mother again, I've been preparing for a long time. I will not allow you who caused my mother so much suffering to escape legal and social responsibility. From the boundless terror radiating from Liam, William trembled all over. Mr. Wallace closed the file with a loud snap and delivered the merciless verdict. Mr. William, we are suing you for damages for willful family abandonment on behalf of Mrs. Eliza Whitaker. as well as a lump sum payment of child support for Liam for 15 years. Furthermore, Mrs. Schuyler, suddenly named Schuyler, flinched. You will not be let off the hook either. Even though you were 18 at the time, you knew you were in a relationship with a married man and destroyed a family. Your responsibility is significant. We are also suing you for damages for adultery. The total amount of the lawsuit against you, both including late fees, is $1,500,000. $1,500,000. William and Schuyler's voices merged. I can't pay that, Schuyler shrieked and blindly grabbed William's collar. You pay for it. I was tricked. I thought it was that delinquent's kid, and you're the one who decided he was yours and dragged me into all this. I'm innocent. Shut up, you fraud, William. Not to be outdone, pushed Schuyler away and yelled back. You're the one who seduced me. If you hadn't lied back then that you were carrying my child, I wouldn't have dumped Eliza. You're paying for everything. You're the one who just wanted a young girl's body. Don't act so high and mighty, you creepy old geezer. The two who had just been posturing as an elite family were now rolling on the ground, pulling each other's hair and showering each other with foul curses. For their own self-preservation, they were willing to betray even the person they had lived with for 15 years. That was their true nature. The parents around them frowned in disgust and looked at them with utter contempt. That's enough. Dr. Coleman's shout echoed through the area, and the security guards forcibly separated the fighting pair. William, panting with bloodshot eyes, glared at Liam. You people have pushed me into hell. You must be happy, huh? But you know what? You can't get blood from a stone. Dr. Coleman just fired me. I'm unemployed now. There will be no severance. And my savings have been spent by Schuyler on designer goods. I'm broke. $1,500,000. I couldn't pay that amount even if I stood on my head. William switched to a cackling laugh. Haha, serves you right. You tried to extort money from me, but you failed. Just a waste of money on a lawyer. This is what happens when poor people hire lawyers. Even completely cornered, William felt a sense of victory just at the thought that he wouldn't have to pay. Seeing this pathetic sight, I could only let out a soft sigh. This man was rotten to the core. But even this last resistance from William had been anticipated by Liam long ago. Can't get blood from a stone, Liam smiled faintly, an ice-cold smile. You're speaking nonsense, Mr. William. You're not unable to pay. You're just hiding your money. What? William's crazed laughter stopped. We just talked about the secret account where you receive money from the parents of Crestview students. Liam took out his phone again and showed the screen to Mr. Wallace and Dr. Coleman. You, Mr. William, to prevent your dirty money from being found by the police or the IRS, you transferred it to an offshore account in a tax haven country, didn't you? The balance in that account is around $2 million. Am I wrong? William's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. How? How could a high school student like Liam know about the existence of a secret offshore account that no one was supposed to know about? While William was too shocked to speak, Liam prepared to deliver the final devastating blow. How could a high school student know about the existence of an offshore account that no one was supposed to know? William stared at Liam as if he had been hypnotized by a demon. His teeth chattered. A secret account in a tax haven. It was the endpoint of all the dirty bribes William had collected from parents and his entire fortune, which he valued more than his life. Liam, with a cold, contemptuous gaze as if looking at a pathetic insect, looked down at William. It's simple. Your arrogance and carelessness played you. What, Mr. William, on anonymous forums and secret social media accounts under the pseudonym Elite Teacher Hates Poor People. You often posted screenshots of your wealth to show off, didn't you? Hearing Liam's words, William flinched violently. Several years ago, I found that account and analyzed all the images you uploaded, the smallest details in the background, areas that weren't fully censored, the timing patterns of your posts. From there to trace your IP address, and the branch where the secret account was opened. For me, it was easier than solving a basic math problem. From the crowd came gasps of admiration. Could a high school student alone uncover all of this? For 15 years, to avenge his mother's humiliation, Liam, armed with a terrifying determination and genius-level intelligence, had completely blocked all of William's escape routes. No way. My perfect plan. Destroyed by this poor kid. William, holding his head, let out an animalistic groan. Mr. Wallace mercilessly announced, based on the data provided by Liam, we have already completed the procedure to seize your account through the courts. Thus, the damages and child support of $1,500,000 will be guaranteed from your secret account, with a lump sum cash payment. Don't touch it, William blindly screamed, and started pounding the ground. That's my money, the money I collected by risking everything. I won't let trash like you take it, risking everything, selling the future of students for money, and you still dare to talk like that, Doctor, Coleman said with an ice-cold voice. The remaining $500,000 will also be gone to pay for the school's damages and hefty tax penalties. You, William, will literally have nothing left. Ah, ah. William, his eyes rolling back, fell to the ground. He had lost everything: status, family, money, all the sources of his pride in just a few dozen minutes. At that moment, from a distance, the wailing sound of a siren was heard. A police car stopped at the main gate of the school. From inside, several uniformed police officers with serious faces emerged. The police. William lifted his terrified face. "I'm the one who called them," Dr. Coleman said, folding his arms. "The evidence of your bribery and embezzlement has already been submitted to the police. Today, at this ceremony, we let you roam free only to ensure you were apprehended." "No, I don't want to. I'm elite. I'm not someone who should be in jail." William pathetically crawled, trying to escape. But he was quickly surrounded by police and his hands were cuffed behind his back. "It hurts. It hurts. Let me go. It's not my fault. It was Skylar. That woman seduced me." Even as he was being cuffed, he continued to pathetically point at Skylar and scream. And Skylar, seeing William being cuffed for a moment, her face lit up. "Good. If William's in jail, I don't have to deal with this creepy old geezer anymore. I won't have to pay the damages either. I don't have a penny to my name." Skylar smirked and tried to slip away unnoticed, but Liam would not let her escape. "Mrs. Skylar, where do you think you're going?" Liam's cold voice pierced Skylar's back. "Humph. What, I'm innocent. I'm a victim who was deceived." Turning around, Skylar shrieked. "A victim? Don't be ridiculous!" Liam, holding his phone now, turned to Skylar with merciless facts. "Mrs. Skylar, Ryan's biological father, the delinquent Travis, is currently on the run from massive debts, isn't he? And I suspect you are the guarantor for those debts." What? Skylar's face instantly lost all expression. "As long as you had the status of Mr. William's wife and money, the debt collectors didn't bother you. But when they find out that Mr. William has been arrested and all his assets are frozen, that debt will immediately become your responsibility, a person with not a single cent to her name. Coupled with the damages, this will be the beginning of a hell you will never be able to escape for the rest of your life." "Ah!" Skylar fell to her knees and, holding her head, began to scream hysterically. No, I was supposed to be a socialite. This is all a lie, Eliza, please, we once loved each other." As he was being pushed into the police car, William pleaded for my help with a pathetic voice. Skylar rolled on the ground and cried. Meanwhile, Ryan, who had lived for 15 years as someone else's son, just stared blankly into space, frozen on the spot. That was the pathetic and ridiculous end for those who 15 years ago had thrown me out like trash while laughing. The police car door slammed shut and the sound of the siren faded away. On the once crowded path, silence finally descended. "It's all over, Mom," Liam said with relief, showing me his kind face. I couldn't hold back the flood of tears, hugging Liam tightly. "Thank you. Truly thank you." It felt as if all the suffering of the past 15 years, all the dirty curses had been washed clean. But Liam, seeing me overcome with emotion, said with a slightly embarrassed expression, "Mom, don't cry just yet. I have one big secret I haven't told you." What? I wiped my tears and looked at Liam's face. The matter with William and Skylar was over. What other secret could there possibly be? A big secret. Wiping my tear-streaked face, I looked at Liam with wonder. The retribution against William and Skylar with the help of Mr. Wallace had been perfectly executed. What other secret could he possibly be hiding from me? Ignoring my confusion, Mr. Wallace, who stood beside Liam, changed the cold expression he had when looking at William and Skylar to a very calm and friendly smile, saying, "Mrs. Whitaker, actually today I have another important mission from Liam that brought me here." "An important mission, Mr. Wallace took out a leather-bound folder that looked even more expensive than his attaché case. As I mentioned, Liam came to my office on his own when he was in middle school. At that time, he asked me not only to sue for damages but also to register a legal entity for his own business and file for a patent. A business. A patent. My head was spinning. Before me stood my son, who was just 15 years old. What business? What patent? What was he talking about? Liam, slightly embarrassed, scratched the back of his head. "Mom, remember how I was always sitting in front of the computer with a serious face?" Yes. "I thought you were learning to code." "Well, I was teaching myself to code, and I developed an artificial intelligence for diagnosing medical images." "Mom, remember, I said I wanted to be a doctor." I nodded in response to Liam's words. "But to become a doctor and save people still takes many years. So I thought, couldn't I use my knowledge and technology now to create a system that could save as many people suffering from diseases as possible?" Mr. Wallace helped me with that, and we filed for a patent. Here, Chairman Harrington, who was standing nearby, interjected, nodding deeply. "The artificial intelligence system developed by Liam is so innovative that there is nothing like it in the world. Last month, a giant medical corporation from the US bought the patent and the exclusive rights to use this system for a very large sum." A very large sum. I swallowed hard. Mr. Wallace opened his leather folder and handed me a document. "Mrs. Whitaker, the total value of the contract Liam signed with the American company is approximately $20 million. $20 million, I shouted involuntarily and almost fell to the ground. $20 million. An amount so large if you didn't win the lottery. You'd never see it in a lifetime. Of course, Liam is still a minor, so I am assisting him with asset management. All taxes have been paid, and a sum sufficient for you to live without working for the rest of your lives has been transferred to a joint account for you and Liam. This is a lie. I must be dreaming. With trembling hands, I took the document. And there, truly printed, was a balance with a number of zeros I couldn't count in one go. Liam slowly knelt before me and gently took my hand. Mom. Your hands. From washing dishes in cold water. From lifting heavy things. They've become so rough. Liam's thumb gently stroked the calluses and cracks on my fingers. I always felt so sad. After that man left us, you worked yourself to the bone, never caring for yourself. All for me. That's why I swore I would make you happy. Liam. Mom, you don't have to work multiple jobs anymore. You don't have to wake up early and go to that cold cannery. From now on, I will take care of you. Thank you so much for raising me. From Liam's eyes, large tears flowed. Liam, who was always mature and rarely showed his emotions, was crying for me. That fact made me happier than anything in the world. Liam, thank you. I am so happy to be your mother. I hugged Liam tightly again, and this time I cried like a small child. Not because of the $20, but because of Liam's kindness and his deep love for me, which filled my heart with a warm light. Oh, and one more thing, Mom. Liam, wiping his tears, took a silver key from his pocket. Actually, last month, I already terminated the lease on our old apartment. Yesterday, I asked Mr. Wallace for help, and he bought us a penthouse apartment in an elite residential complex downtown with excellent security. After the ceremony, we're going straight to our new home. You bought a house too. Seeing my shocked face, Liam, Mr. Wallace, and Chairman Harrington all laughed. The falling autumn leaves seemed to bless us, settling on our heads. After 15 years of hellish days, we had finally found true happiness. However, our happy turning point was also a moment of absolute despair for one person. A few days later, William, arrested on charges of embezzlement and fraud, and sitting behind the cold bars of a detention center, would scream in horror after seeing a news report on television. Learning that the son he had insulted as having grandma jeans and abandoned 15 years ago was a world-shaking genius who had earned $20 million. William's sanity would completely shatter. A few days later, in the grim cell of the detention center, surrounded by cold concrete walls, William in a dirty jumpsuit sat in a corner. Hey, rec time! Out now! Hearing the cold voice of the guard, William lifted his vacant eyes. There was no trace of the elite teacher's grandeur left. His hair was overgrown, his cheeks were hollow. He looked much older. Embezzlement, fraud, and a class action lawsuit from parents and students. The dark side he had built for years had been completely exposed, and every day he faced harsh interrogations. Given the irrefutable evidence, a prison sentence was inevitable. As William walked with heavy steps down the corridor from a small television in the guard's office, the sound of the noon news could be heard. Next up, a high school student from the United States has made a historic breakthrough that will revolutionize the medical industry. It has been revealed that an artificial intelligence for medical image diagnosis developed by 11th grade student Liam Whitaker of Northwood Preparatory Academy has been sold to a major American medical corporation for approximately $20 million. William's feet froze. Whitaker says he began developing the system out of gratitude for his mother, who raised him as a single parent. On the television screen, a photo of Liam with the same gold pin on his chest that he had seen on orientation day appeared in a close-up. Ah! William pressed himself against the bars and began to scream hysterically. Hey, look! That's my son! My son! Who inherited my superior genes. My son. $20 million. Yes. I still have $20 million. He's my son. So that money is mine. Shut up and keep moving. The guard hit the bars with his baton, and William flinched. Besides, what kind of son is he to you? The report said he was raised by a single mother. There's no way a disgusting criminal like you, who extorted money from parents, is the father of such a brilliant student. Stop lying. The guard's merciless words pierced deeply into William's chest. Yes. I called his jeans grandma jeans and threw him out like trash. My real talented son. If I hadn't dumped Eliza back then, if I had raised Liam as my son, right now I'd be the father of a genius. I'd have $20 million, live in luxury that everyone would envy, and never have to work again. Realizing the immense fortune he had missed out on due to his foolish choice 15 years ago, William, clutching his head, fell to the floor and let out a heart-wrenching scream. But no matter how much he regretted and cried in this world, no one would pity him. On the same day, as if to finish him off, the public defender who came to see him delivered the final, most devastating news. Mr. William, your wife, Mrs. Schuyler, has fled to an unknown location. What William was stunned by the lawyer's words from behind the glass partition. Immediately after your arrest, she maxed out your credit cards, took out consumer loans, withdrew cash, and ran. Furthermore, the large debt from that man we discussed. She transferred the guarantor status to you, and then disappeared. I don't understand. Why do I have to pay that delinquent's debt? Legally, of course it can be contested, but you currently don't even have the money for court fees. Besides the $1,500,000 in damages to Mrs. Whitaker and Liam has been fully seized from your frozen secret account. And from Ryan there's a message. Never enter my life again. I don't want to see your face anymore. William, his eyes rolling back and foaming at the mouth, collapsed onto the floor. Money, status, fame, and family. He had lost everything. And all that remained was a debt he could never repay and a criminal record. That was the pathetic and ridiculous end of a man who looked down on others and lived only for his own desires. Meanwhile, Schuyler, who had tried to rob William and flee, also found no peaceful life. Ow, let go! In a dark alley in a nightlife district, several rough men grabbed Schuyler's hair and slammed her to the ground. You think you can run? You know you're the guarantor for that deadbeat Travis's debt, right? No, not me. I already transferred the guarantee to my ex-husband, William Ha. You think we'd fall for such a cheap lie? That teacher is in jail now. You can't get blood from a broke old man. One of the men kicked Schuyler in the face. Now you're going to work for us. In a special place. For the rest of your life, to pay off the debt. Travis's debt and compensation for running away. About $200,000. $200,000. It's a lie. I was supposed to be a socialite, no, Schuyler's screams dissolved into the darkness of the night and no one heard them. The fake luxurious life she had obtained by destroying another's family, using only her youth and beauty, came at the price of true forced labor in a hell where she would never see the light of day again. The two demons who had tormented me at the bottom of hell for 15 years in this way, completely self-destructed and vanished from society. And while they fell to the bottom of hell, Liam and I began a new life in a completely different world. A penthouse in the most prestigious district of the city, on the 40th floor of a skyscraper. In the spacious living room paved with marble giant panoramic windows stretched across the entire wall. From there, the view of the city at night like a spilled jewelry box spread to the horizon. I sank into the plush sofa, enjoying the aroma of freshly brewed herbal tea, and silently gazed at the sea of lights. Mom still awake. The heavy living room door opened, and a sleepy Liam in pajamas entered, rubbing his eyes. Sorry, Liam. The night view is just so beautiful. I feel like I'm still dreaming and can't believe this is real, so I couldn't sleep. I smiled. Liam approached me, sat beside me, and also looked out the window. It's not a dream. This is our new home. And from now on, we'll always live here, wanting for nothing. No more cold drafts in the winter, or hunting for discounted food at the supermarket. From Liam's gentle voice, I felt a warmth spread through my chest. That night, 15 years ago, when I was thrown out of the house unprepared, I didn't know where to go, shivering from the cold wind on a park bench. I had only a few $100s in my wallet, and I cried until my tears ran dry from despair and fear. From a 4-1-year-old grandma giving birth at that age, a normal child won't be born. My ex-husband William's cruel words for years were like a curse that shackled my heart. I worked 3 jobs, slept 3 hours a day. My hands cracked and bled from constant work. I couldn't buy Liam a single new toy, and his textbooks were all used and worn from secondhand bookstores. But Liam never once complained and smiling would say, "Mom's cooking is the best in the world." You know Liam 15 years ago when I was pregnant with you and decided that no matter how hard it was, I would raise you alone to be an honorable person. I wholeheartedly believe that was the truest and best choice of my life. Mom, when William mocked me about superior genes, I didn't feel that hurt. Because I know that a person's worth isn't determined by empty things like that, but by the ability to empathize, the perseverance to overcome difficulties, and the strength to love. You, by your example, have brilliantly proven that. Liam, with a slightly shy smile, put his hand on my shoulder. I'm the one who should be thanking you. Because you believed in me and raised me with so much love, I was able to achieve all this. What they call my genius intelligence is the result of the warm meals you cooked every day and your kind smile. I am so happy to have been born as your son. When I heard those words from my eyes, large tears flowed again. This time they were not tears of sorrow or pain. They were very warm tears, filled with the highest happiness and a sense of a duty fulfilled. We sat side by side for a while longer, gazing at the beautiful night view. Later, Mr. Wallace informed us that William was sentenced to prison and sent to a correctional facility. The large lawsuit from the school and the tax penalties completely wiped out his assets. And even after his release, he would face a bleak life of daily manual labor to pay off debts until the end of his days. And Schuyler, burdened with massive debt, was caught by debt collectors, and sent to an illegal workplace with harsh conditions from which she would never return to society. Those who envied the happiness of others, looked down on the weak, and trampled on people for their own gain, were all destroyed by the evil seeds they themselves had sown. The saying is true: you reap what you sow. It's late and you have school tomorrow. You should sleep, I said, wiping my tears. Liam smiled and said, okay, good night, and went to his room. In the quiet living room, I once again took a deep breath, looking at the city at night. The heavy burden that had weighed on my soul for 15 years had completely lifted. Giving birth at 41, the vile betrayal of a husband, and divorce, the hard life of a single mother, it was not an easy path. But now I can proudly say that my life has led me to this end. Now in the rest of my life, I without shame before anyone will be the happiest in the world together with Liam. I said it firmly. Looking at the night city and with a sense of satisfaction, lay down in my warm bed. Outside the window, the night wind blew gently, and a new day full of hope was approaching. Thank you to everyone who has read to the end. How was the story? 15 years ago, a cunning husband and his mistress cruelly abandoned a pregnant wife. But due to the laws of karma, their evil deeds led them to lose everything and be destroyed. And Eliza, who even in the most difficult conditions did not forget love, and desperately raised her son, succeeded in raising him to be a genius, and achieved tremendous happiness. Evil deeds always come back to roost. And if even in the most difficult situations we live honestly and with love, the day of reckoning will surely come. May the rest of Eliza and Liam's lives be beautiful. If you liked this story and felt a sense of satisfaction, or were moved, please subscribe to the channel and give it a like. Your warm comments always inspire me. See you in the next video.